Welcome, restless souls, to Carmen's Crypt. I'm Carmen Carrion, keeper of forgotten tales and curator of nightmares. You've wandered into my domain, where each week I unearth a fresh horror from the depths of human imagination. In these darkened halls, stories wait like hungry shadows. Each tale we've collected whispers of terrors both ancient and new. From crumbling mansions where something skitters behind the walls, to that strange text message you received at 3 a.m. from a number that shouldn't exist. So gather close. The candles are lit, the shadows grow long, and the witching hour is upon us. Are you prepared to face what lurks in the darkest recesses of Carmen's Crypt? Lock your doors, still your nerves, and remember, here, every fear comes to life. This is Carmen's Crypt. Your sanctuary of scares awaits. Tonight's story comes from listener Masked Writer Chris, who crafted a tale of cosmic horror and inherited guilt that'll stick with you long after the lights go out. Content warning for themes of mental health and family trauma. This is I Don't Want to Go Down to the Basement. There's something down there. The apartment, my family, me, my parents, and my little sister spent my childhood and teenage years in was a big red brick monster. It had a basement 3 stories below our apartment that was stifling in the summertime and frigid in the winter. If I'd had my way, I would have had a drum kit down there to jam on, but the neighbors would have killed us, even though we got along just fine with them, except for the people who lived downstairs from us, a mother and daughter. The daughter was nice. My sister and I got along with her. It was the mother who was the problem. It was always something with her mother, who was a loud, seemingly always angry sort. We often heard their vicious arguments coming up in angry metallic ghost whispers through our radiator pipes at night. We couldn't usually make out what they were saying, but boy, were they mad about something. It always got back to us that she talked trash about us behind our backs, and she always gave us stink eye whenever we met in person. Both our parents worked and we kids were usually left to ourselves, but we were always told one thing, very firmly, by both our parents. Do not go into the basement unsupervised. We just looked at them, nodded, and smiled, and left it at that. Something about how the old lady downstairs didn't want us in there, and given how mean she was, we listened. We didn't like her either, so it worked for us. The summer I turned 18, however, I got it into my head that I was grown, and I could do whatever I wanted to. Besides, who cared what that old bat downstairs thought anyway? She was obviously crazy. I decided I was going to see what the big deal was about. One humid Friday in mid-July, when the folks were at work and my sister was out, I slowly unlocked the kitchen door that led downstairs. I paused on the worn kitchen floor, taking in the sunlight streaming through the window. Something told me to enjoy these normal things while I could, because something huge was about to happen. I descended the old wooden stairs, hand on the banister, apprehension building in my gut. The basement door had cracking white paint, a deadbolt, and a wired window. I undid the deadbolt and eased it open. The basement had a concrete floor with wood slat storage cubicles along the walls. Sunlight dappled the slats as dust and mustiness tickled my nose. Without warning, I sneezed loudly. A faint shuffling noise came from nearby, and my heart nearly stopped. I heard soft hissing, which was enough to send me retreating upstairs quickly. I quietly slunk upstairs to the safety of our apartment and retreated to my room to crank my stereo. A good dose of Motorhead always cured what ailed me, and Dr. Rock soon had me headbanging joyfully. When my sister got home, she stuck her head in my room and rolled her eyes at her hopelessly uncool big brother's antics. It wasn't until I flagged her down that she stopped. She knew I was serious when I actually stopped the record player to talk to her. The look on her face when I told her what I'd done was priceless because it was just such a perfect look of shock. Mind you, we got along well enough. She was, however, at the age where it was mandated she acted otherwise in public. Naturally, she had a clean-cut jock boyfriend with a bright future in football. Never mind that a deaf man could hear how fake he was when sucking up to our parents. Of course, he thought I was a loser with questionable sexuality. At 16, she was their bright star of hope, and I'd be lying if I said she didn't work that angle at times to her full advantage. Unlike me, who aspired to being the next Lemmy Kilmister, to conquer the world armed with a bass guitar slung around my neck. Never mind the fact that I was a straight arrow whose worst traits were his long hair and a band t-shirt collection. I was the screw-up in their eyes. But that's neither here nor there. My sister stared at me in shock, then sputtered out, "Are you serious? You actually went down there? What did you see?" When I told her, and she seemed disappointed at first, it inevitably came down to, "You're not going to go down there again, are you? I won't tell on you, but come on. You don't know what's down there. It could be anything." When I told her I was going to, she sighed and said, "I don't know nothing. I still think you need to stay out of there, but..." She trailed off and left my room, shaking her head. I went to bed with my mind whirling, keen to see how much further I could push it. The next time I went down, I heard soft shuffling from one of the storage closets, which had a large new padlock. I peeked through the slats and could have sworn I saw something. I drew back with a gasp and hurried out. Sunday dragged on with anticipation building. When I finally fell asleep, I had creepy dreams that woke me with a stifled cry. A high-pitched, distorted voice had said something like, "Mommy," that woke me up shivering. Monday, I was surprised to find the basement door unlocked. I slipped inside to be greeted by the crazy downstairs neighbor lady. "What are you doing down here? Get out! You don't see anything." Her voice carried its usual harsh anger, but also desperation. As we stood there, I noticed two things. She had a sack with wet red spots, and I heard wordless whimpering from the corner. Frantic banging started where the closets were. She stepped up to me and snarled, "You don't know nothing, got it?" I nodded and rushed out, but I crept back to put my ear to the door. I heard her talking to someone in a sweet, loving tone I'd never heard before. "I'm sorry, sweetie. That bad boy is gone now. It's just you and me now. Mommy loves you." What made me shudder was the response, a weird voice that sounded like a person imitating a cat. Even after another night of scary dreams that woke me often, I went back down to the basement once I was alone the following day. I was deranged from lack of sleep and driven by something in my mind compelling me into who knew what. The next I knew, I was making my way to the little closet in the corner. I didn't hear anything this time, but I still slowed down as I got closer. My heart was pounding hard enough that I thought whatever was in there could probably hear it clearly. I paused in front of the door, breath catching in my throat, my ribs vibrating with every heartbeat. As I peered between the slats, I glimpsed something pale, lying still, and I smelled feces and urine. It smelled like something had crawled up someone's ass and died. I saw what looked like someone's back turned towards me, with vertebrae poking through to an unhealthy degree. Someone's skin and bones, like a Holocaust survivor. I gasped, and the next thing I knew, a pair of jaundiced eyes were staring into mine. My terror was intense as I heard that same weird voice I had been hearing in my dreams. "Hello, friend." I thought I'd known what loneliness was, being an outcast was, but I heard more loneliness and sadness in those two words than I'd ever known in my young life. Something in the voice of this poor guy, thing, whatever it was, awakened sympathy in my heart. I finally found my own voice after a few seconds stammering. Yeah, friend." I was nearly whispering, in awe of what was happening. "Yeah, friend." "Good. Need. Friend." I even felt tears stinging my eyes as it said what it said next. "I like friend." Something in that voice just made me realize how petty my feelings of being left out by my peers were in the grand scheme of things. Here I was with a good life in comparison. I got to come and go as I pleased. I had food and clothes, records, a bass guitar, a room of my own, and a roof over my head that wasn't musty bare concrete. This poor guy didn't have any of that. I thought of Mary Shelley's Creature, and it hit me that this guy was a real outsider and outcast. "Hey man, what's your name?" I spoke quietly and gently. "Name?" It sounded uncertain, as though the concept was new to him. Yeah. You have a name, right? Everybody has a name." I was surprised when he repeated the same word. Did this guy even not have a name? I thought for a second, then said, "Hey, can I call you Frank?" Short for Frankenstein, of course, knowing full well as a movie buff that it was the same name of the doctor, not the creature. Hey, it was the first thing that came to mind. "Frank. Yes, I like Frank." That weird voice came through the wood. I found myself smiling in spite of myself, because whoever this guy was, he didn't seem all bad. He just wanted someone to talk to. It hit me right then, though, that I'd best get back upstairs before I was caught again. "Listen, Frank, I gotta go now, but want me to come back and visit you again? Is that okay?" Frank's voice cracked with emotion as he replied to me, "Yes, please come back." I forced a lump out of my throat before I could speak. "I will, man. See you again soon, Frank. But don't tell anybody I was here, okay? I'm kinda not supposed to be here." "Okay," Frank said, sounding happy. Back in my room, it hit me that this was something big. I knew that this was something I had to keep to myself, even if it meant that poor Frank only had one friend in the world. The next couple of weeks were interesting, to say the least. The days I got to spend time with Frank were marked by being amazed at how naive about the world he was. Talking to him was like talking to an overgrown toddler sometimes, but he was so eager to listen to me that I cut him all the slack. I told him about my music, about girls, about pretty much everything I could think of. He eagerly listened, and it was gratifying. You see, apparently she was his mother, and judging from what little Frank told me about her, she was crappy to him. Mind you, he had no idea about, the birds and the bees. He just knew she was his mother. He implied that she talked down to him and kept him in a state of arrested development for God only knew what reasons. He also said she often slapped him around and screamed at him, and he couldn't fathom why. I started getting angrier about it over time. He had no idea who his father was, but he mentioned having awful dreams about something watching over him that scared him badly, something that didn't sound normal or natural at all, based on what little he told me. This made me think, was his father even human? Part of me thought, had to have been, because who would want to get with her? As soon as that thought crossed my mind, a shiver went up and down my spine, and I put it aside instantly. But it kept coming back to haunt me at the worst times. It made me feel like I knew about something that I was never meant to know about. Everything changed one morning when I woke from a nightmare and headed downstairs to mayhem in the basement. I heard the crazy lady ranting and blows landing, then Frank's heartbreaking whimpering. "You aren't even supposed to exist! You don't have friends! Who would want to be your friend, you freak?" That was it. I ran across the basement, grabbed her arm, and dragged her away from Frank's cubicle. She started hitting me, and I fought back until something clocked me hard in the head. As she beat me down, an inhuman screech cut through my daze.
"Leave him alone!"
Suddenly, she was screaming in pain as Frank snarled like an angry animal. I heard wet, ripping noises that made my stomach turn, followed by a sickening burble and final thud. When my vision cleared, I saw Frank crouching by the body of the neighbor lady, who looked like she had been through a meat grinder. A girl's scream echoed from nearby, "My sister," and Frank hissed, sending her fleeing upstairs. Frank turned jaundiced, bulging eyes on me and a face only vaguely human. His unnaturally wide mouth was slathered with gore, full of too many sharp teeth. Long, greasy hair framed prominent cheekbones and flabby lips. Everything about his lanky, bony body was wrong. Eyes too round, mouth too wide, arms too long. There were withered fins on his limbs and atrophied webbing between his clawed fingers and toes. His skin was pale white, fading to unhealthy yellow on his back. "Friend, I like friend," he said, trying to smile. When Frank realized his only friend was frightened of him, the most intense hatred I'd ever seen took over his face. He glared at the dead body and started vigorously ripping into it with animalistic fury. I heard a car pull up outside, then heavy footsteps charging down to the basement door. "Sweet Jesus," a man's voice declared. Frank looked up and snarled, blood dripping from his inhuman mouth, then was drowned out by deafening gunfire. After the shooting stopped, I saw Frank, full of holes, crawling toward me.
"Sorry, friend,"
he said, with such sadness that I was overcome with grief. A policeman moved in to finish him with a point-blank headshot, and I went into shock. I came to in a hospital bed with my family by my bedside. When they left the room, a man entered. "I'm Agent Tompkins from the FBI. That subject you saw down there does not exist. You did not see anything. You are not to discuss it with anybody. If you say anything to anybody, we will know about it, and there will be damage control. Do you understand?" His voice was flat and matter-of-fact. I just nodded. He was middle-aged, ordinary, graying hair, dark suit, but something about his eyes made me shiver before he walked silently out. Months passed before I could wrap my head around what had happened. Then came the day when the crazy lady's daughter came to see me and told me she didn't hold anything against me. I heard her out since I had no problems with her. She told me that she had argued with her mother numerous times about putting the poor guy out of his misery since he was so deformed. But her mother had always vehemently denied that option, something about how it was her responsibility to take care of him. I know, she said, when I pointed out what I'd witnessed didn't qualify as taking care of Frank. Then she dropped the bomb. Her father had died when she was little, and she'd never known who fathered Frank, only that her mother had gotten pregnant again after going away on several occasions with a group of creepy people in dark clothing. She didn't remember much about them, but she did remember the night Frank was born. She remembered that her mother had given birth at home after a rough pregnancy, with the people in black overseeing the delivery. The screaming she'd heard from the bedroom that she'd been ejected from had scared her half to death. The noises of her little brother taking his first breaths had made her blood freeze, and she'd never forgotten her mother sobbing in horror and screaming, "Oh God, what have I done?" Frank had always been imprisoned in his room from day one. The first time she sneaked in to peek at him, she'd been stunned at what she saw. Her mother had tanned her hide for this, and she'd never done so again. The creepy folks in black had made it clear that she was staying there, like it or not, for otherwise she'd be shirking her duty, as they put it. She had lacked the courage to stand up to these sinister strangers, and she was frightened they'd come for her now. I blurted out, "Wouldn't they do that anyway now that Frank was dead?" "Oh, it will happen. They have ways of knowing things," she said with a shudder before excusing herself. I just sat there staring at my Metallica and Slayer posters for a while after that. To think that cults like that existed in the real world. H.P. Lovecraft had been onto something, I thought, as implications sank into my brain. Then it hit me like a brick. Was that guy in the suit really FBI? I abruptly recalled that he hadn't flashed a badge of any kind. Was he one of those men in black I'd heard about on the internet? That night, at 2 a.m., I heard her screaming through the radiator pipes.
No! Oh God, no! Leave me alone!
I charged to our front door and down to her apartment. Her door was ajar, and I saw several tall, gangling figures surrounding her. Her pajamas were shredded, leaving parts of her embarrassingly exposed. As they turned toward me, I noticed their clumsy movements and bulging clothes. Their faces looked more like fish than people. Wide mouths, bulging eyes, shark teeth, stringy hair, like Frank's. A familiar voice spoke from behind me. "You should have stayed in the bed, kid." The man in black pressed something hard against my skull. "It won't hurt. Much." I slowly turned, and he chuckled softly. "Don't be a hero. Just look at me." What I saw shut my brain down instantly. I came to in a fetal position as the sun lit the living room. The crazy lady's daughter was sitting on the sofa, grinning idiotically with glassy eyes. When we made eye contact, she giggled hideously, and I found myself joining her. We'd both seen something not meant for human minds. The image of writhing black tentacles where a man's face should be assaulted my mind. We kept giggling, then laughing, then shrieking. That's how the police found us. I'm writing this down in my cell at the institution. I have mechanical pencils, and I've snapped and gone through numerous leads committing this paper. Papers I keep well hidden, since someone might get cute and swipe them. The doctors were able to restore my mind, mostly, but even with my medication, I can't unsee what I saw. I can't remember the last time my family visited, and maybe that's for the better. I have a sneaking suspicion that maybe the man in black visited my family after he was done with me. I don't want to know what might have happened to the crazy lady's daughter. Did I mention I can't unsee the things I saw at that apartment complex? Even with sleeping meds, the dreams come, and they won't stop. I keep hearing that evil chuckle and that cold, flat voice telling me that I saw something I wasn't meant to see. No joke, Sherlock. It made me realize that, yes, there really are things out there that we humans weren't meant to see or know about. We're better off being oblivious about them. I was no longer oblivious about this now. I'll spare you the other things, and things I saw in these dreams. I was all too aware about their all too real world now, that lurks at the outskirts of the world we humans think is so safe, good, and solid. Hell no, the world we need to worry about is the one we conveniently ignore, even though it's right under our noses. The world full of unspeakable things that will strike us raving mad if even a glimpse of them is caught by one of us humans. The dreams happen every night, and the worst part is these sleeping meds are so strong that I can only wake up when they finally wear off, after the eternity of every night on them. I can't not take them either. They make sure I take them no matter what here. Even though these people mean well, they just don't get it. They nod, smile, and pat me on the head, but I can tell they don't believe me. They're too busy thinking I'm too crazy to know what I'm talking about. But I know better. I can't take it anymore. There's only one thing that will end this, I hope, though the man in black disagrees with me. In the dreamscapes, he opens up for me every night, so he can torment me from wherever he is. He says it's a futile idea. I've found my way to the end of this torture. As soon as I finish writing this, I'm finally going to be free of this nightmare. Will I really be tormented by the man in black forever? One way to find out. If there's an afterlife, let's hope that it's well away from the world that they inhabit. It's bedtime now. Good night, world. Good night, my life. Here's to hoping that I'm right about this. Wish me luck. Something tells me I'm going to need it. And so, dear listeners, we emerge from another dark corner of Carmen's Crypt. But remember, the horrors you've heard tonight are merely echoes of the terrors that await in the shadows of your own mind. If you enjoyed your stay in the crypt, why not invite a friend to join us next week? After all, fear is best when shared. Leave a review if you dare, or share your own tales of terror on my social media. Who knows, your nightmares might just become my next story. Until next time, keep checking under your bed. And remember, in Carmen's crypt, every fear comes alive, and no one is truly safe. Sweet dreams, if you can still sleep at all.